Yo, man, it's often said with all of the distractions and the things that are pulling our mind in multiple directions that people are having an issue identifying or even hearing God's voice. How do I hear God's voice? How do I know that that's God speaking to me and not another voice or my own, thoughts? The way you do that is to literally spend intentional time in God's word, with God, alone, or with people, but literally spending intentional time with God. I can give you an analogy. In high school, I wrestled, and I was pretty good. I was good enough to make it to the state tournament. And in this tournament, at this Coliseum, there were thousands of people, a sea of people, tens of thousands of people, in fact. And where they sat versus where we were on the ground level, and they were up in the stands. People were yelling and screaming, cheering on their wrestlers, coaches, parents, whomever. But when my mom yelled, I can distinctly hear and identify her voice as her. And she didn't say anything more than, "Let's go, son, let's go." With all the other sons and all the other mothers in there, I knew my mom's voice, and I knew she was speaking to me. That was for me. At that time, I had spent 17 years conditioning my ear to identify my mother's voice. So regardless of what else was going on around me, I can hear my mother's voice. You got to do the same thing in identifying God's voice. Spend time enough alone with God so that when He speaks, you can clearly identify His words to you. You can clearly identify and recognize His voice for you. I'll give you one more analogy, or an example, actually. Has somebody ever brought you some words that somebody said, like, "Yo, hey man, such and such was talking about you. They said this, and this," or "Hey, such and such said you ain't this or that," but you knew that person so much so, or the person that they were talking about, you knew them so much so that you knew they would never say anything like that. Like, you knew them well enough to know and to say definitively, he wouldn't have never said that, or she would have never said that about me. You're lying. You can identify the real from a facade because you knew your friend or whomever enough to know they would never say that. How do you identify God's word? How do you identify God's voice? Spending time with God, fastening your ear or conditioning your ear to hear His voice, and to know what He would and would not tell you to do. God would never tell me to do this. So that obviously can't be His voice. God would never tell me to do that. That's obviously not His voice. Spend intentional time with God, and you will become better at identifying God's voice. If you want more content, check me out. Subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button. Follow me on Instagram, _Smitty_fit. Have a blessed day. Good luck.